Welcome back. I'm Connie Sokol, your host of Called to Create, and I am thrilled for you to get to share this experience today of being connected to Chad Hymas. He is amazing global speaker, and he is so inspirational. So I'm excited for you to strap in today because we are going to go with it. Hi, Chad. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
He is a wonderful friend and coach and advocate for being able to move forward in your life regardless of what happens. So I'm going to give you the official bio, and then we are going to jump in and find out how he's been able to do what he does.
Don't make it too official, right? Let's just cut it back, hon.
Don't want him yawning. Well, I'll stop at page 3 if that sounds.
No. Oh, geez.
Chad is a best-selling author, president of his own communications company, and recognized world-class wheelchair athlete. In 2003, Chad set a world record by wheeling his chair from Salt Lake to Las Vegas. Just a heads up, that's about over 500 miles. His speaking career in the areas of leadership, team building, customer service, and mastering change have brought him multiple honors. He has served as president of the National Speaker Association Utah chapter, our favorite chapter, and is a member of the Elite Speakers Roundtable. And just to give you context, that's like one of 20 in the entire world of top world speakers. So I know he's not going to say that, but I will. He says his greatest accomplishment is being devoted to his beautiful wife, who is incredible. We're going to talk about her in just a minute, Shondell, and being a father to his 4 children, whom he adores. So I'm going to cut that a little short and let's move forward because—
Got a grandbaby too.
And a grandbaby, yay! I hear tell that is the best part. So I can't wait. That's exciting. I know that in your speaking, especially you've been doing it for 22 years and just kind of on this side, you're not speaking as much about the accident. But for those that are creatives that are listening, I'd love to go back to that. And I'd actually like to go back just a little farther. Take us to the days before, the life before the accident happened. For those of you that don't know, in 2001, when he was 27 years old, a bale of hay fell on him, and the huge ton of hay fell on him. And that changed his life as he became a quadriplegic. So I want to take us back to what was life like before that accident? What were your thoughts, your dreams, your goals?
I mean, everybody said it was perfect. And of course, I guess compared to what others might view as the body is today, and looking at the body, skin, bones, the way that bodies function, the way that hands look, and the way the body moves, people are it was perfect. But the truth is, it wasn't perfect, but it was different. And it was not that today is bad either, but Shondell and I have been married for 6 years. We were raising 2 little boys. Ace was 3, Kyler was 1, and I was building my dream of having a ranch. That doesn't mean a perfect lifestyle. Definitely different, because I was independent, because I took my own showers, because I cut up my own steak, because I, buttoned my own shirt and put on my own necktie. I mean, all of which I do a lot of that myself today. But getting to that point, I mean, being married to Shondell, and then, even prior to being married to Shondell, right before we made that promise, I think I said, for better or worse, didn't plan on this part. So life before, today, as I look back, yeah, it was great. Today's great as well, but we had challenges, we had battles, we had disappointment, we had things that didn't go as planned. This is just on a different, I don't even know if I'd call it a different scale. It's just life. It's part of life. I see that now. I don't know if I would have said that 15 years ago, but now I just turned 50 yesterday. So I'm much, much wiser now at 50 than I was at 49. Much. It's amazing how the change of the clock in 24 hours can change your mindset. But no, that said, you look back and there's reminiscing. And to tell you that I don't do that would be a lie. It's entertaining for me to go back, and it can be entertaining in a good way and a very negative way. If I go back and I entertain those thoughts of how life used to be prior, and I stay there for maybe 2 minutes tops, I'm good. Makes me appreciate what I have. If I stay there for 2.5 minutes, now I'm sulking. Now I'm a pity party, frustrated because Shondell had to help me get dressed. She put the tie on and it's backwards. And, 23 years ago, I could have been doing this myself. Or Shondell's out feeding the horses right now. She's taking a half hour longer than she should. If I was out there, we'd have had it done. And I mean, those kind of things are destructive and toxic and very, very bad. And I played all those games. Trust me, I've never won those games, but I have indulged in playing those games. And so I think that's a great, great question. And I'm glad that you asked it. Life before is fun to think about, as long as I don't stay there. Because life today is great. You know, you gave an introduction. We didn't have 4 children back then. Now we do. And I wouldn't change that for anything. I mean, those other 2 are adopted. And Josie May, my granddaughter, is just turning 2 next month. I mean, what a gem. And so, you know, the opportunity to meet you would have never, ever happened had this not have occurred. So, I mean, there are many, many things to be grateful for when I focus on those things. So I guess maybe a message for our dear listeners today is that we need to hear the message of the pain, and that as we go through loss, we can call that the loss of life. We can call that the breakup of a relationship, a divorce, or whatever you might want to call it. We can call it going through rehab. We can call it addiction. Whatever that is for you, you honor those by the way that you live your life moving in a forward direction, and your perspective on some of those challenges that have helped define and refine who you are today and mold you into that person. Those choices, you know, a lot of them you couldn't control and a lot of them you could. I could have controlled this, and there's some things that are out of my control. It kind of goes both ways in my circumstance. Regardless of that, I can't go back as much as I tried to and change it. And so I really just try, and that's a daily thing for me. Focus on, okay, I get to spend time with Connie this morning. And then after that, I'm going to do a little bit of reading. And then I have 2 conference calls. And then I have a podcast of my own at 1:30 this afternoon. And so it's just, you know, filling up my day with positive, tangible things that keep my mind going and keep me busy. Reading books, looking forward to, you know, whatever that might be.
I love that. And the key words that stood out to me there are different. It's just different. And I think sometimes for creatives that are listening, when things aren't going the way that they thought that they would, and the expectations are unmet, then we start to look at what we have or how things are as they're awful, they're bad, they're not working, it's a fail, right? But instead, I love that you are being able to be honest and say, there were good things before and there were hard things, and it's just different. And I love this focus forward. Keep focusing on what you do have and what you can do with it. So let's go back to that 2,000-pound bale of hay that's fallen on you. And now your life is different and you're moving forward. Take us to how you move through that space in your life.
So I wake up after making a bad choice on a tractor, and then you're right, that bale of hay fell back. I didn't listen to the hydraulics, the warning sign, and the bale of hay rolls over. The bale weighs more than any SUV, and it lands on my body and it breaks. There's a scar on my neck right there. And that scar is right there, and it goes clear down to my breast line. And I broke all the bones here in the neck, and I broke some ribs. And I wake up several weeks later, and the doctors gave me some good news. It wasn't even my doctors, it was my father. And some tough news. The good news was that he wanted me to live with more intent, and the doctors fixed all this. They fixed all the broken bones. They used titanium. The tough news was that I lost my feet. I am sitting. I lost my legs. I lost the midsection. I lost my stomach. I lost my chest muscles. And then I lost the complete use of my fingers and my hands and my forearms. I also lost my triceps. So I can't raise my hand in the air at that point. So the triceps are gone. I do have some functionality of biceps. When you break your neck, you will lose some form of functionality, feeling and movement in all 4 extremities of your body. Christopher Reeves, the famous Superman movies, he broke a little bit higher. So there's my mark right there. His would be a little bit higher. Because he broke higher, he had nothing beneath this level here. So there was a hole in his neck and a machine that breathed for him. I got lucky. I mean, I don't need a machine, and I can use my hands. So I got some movement back. I see people all the time, and I get introduced to people who have absolutely nothing, no functionality at all. And their mind is perfect, and it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough because I travel alone. And there's some independence there. There's some, I don't know how people do that. And with that said, so back to your question, your transitional point, repeat that question for me again.
So you're in the hospital room, and now you need to accept that this is your future.
Yeah.
And what does that future look like?
So it doesn't happen that way. There's no accept. You're right. I need to accept, but I'm not accepting it. I'm not doing very good. And so my dad, 2 months prior, he was at this annual banquet for his company in Dallas, Texas. He was an insurance salesman. And he had an opportunity to listen to a keynote speaker on the stage that was also in a wheelchair. And it just so happens that he was a quad with the same functionality and hands and movement that I had been diagnosed with for my future, my prognosis. And so now it started to resonate with my father. hey, I've seen this. I know what this looks like. And so he's thinking that. And so he goes home and he gets the VHS tape that he bought, which is kind of ironic that my dad bought something at a convention because he's cheap. He doesn't ever buy anything. So he bought a VHS tape and he brings it back. That tells you how long ago this was, by the way. No DVD. And he wheels in a cart, kind of like you'd seen in the old-fashioned libraries where a cart comes in, big box TV, not a flat screen, and the VCR player. And he takes the VHS tape, which has got all the film inside of it, and he shoves it in and he hits play. And I have no choice because when you're numb, you don't have any choice about, you can't hit the button to, and so I watched this and my dad turns it up really loud and I watched it. I don't remember what the guy said, but he was happy. I'm just saying he was happy. I wasn't. And he talked about his wife and their relationship and they were happy, and doesn't mean they didn't have challenges, and they had 3 kids. And after it was over, I wanted to see it again. There's a lot to be said about repetition, whether that's laps on a football field, shooting foul shots over and over again. There's something about the mindset and repetition and doing things over and over again to gain more insight, to perfect, to try and make better, to progress. So Dad hit rewind, took 20 minutes to get back to the beginning, hit play again, and I watched it again. And I did that probably a dozen times, and I wanted more. So my dad called up the guy's office and ordered whatever he had for sale. I mean, it was the best medication in the world. And it arrived the very next day, but not overnight mail. The guy's name was Art Berg. The guy delivered it himself. And so that was, when he showed up in my room, I was like starstruck. I started crying because here this guy was, and I'm not paying him anything, and he's written several books, and I know this at this point because I've watched it, and my dad got his book and brought it to me and read me a few chapters, and within 24 hours, man, I couldn't get enough of this guy. And he shows up unannounced and uninvited, puts a bag of goodies for me on the floor, and he transfers himself to my bed, and he begins to he was wearing something like this because his hands are like mine, so he unzips, right? And he's got these kind of clothes on underneath. And I understand it all now. I didn't understand it back then. To keep his body warm. And he zips back up with his teeth. And he just showed me different things. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a sacred moment. It was unreal, the demonstration that he was giving me. And he didn't stay for very long, maybe 30 minutes. And back then there was no social media, no Facebook, no Instagram. So I found out, that he was a speaker and that he was an author and traveled the world. And he set a world record by pushing his chair from Salt Lake to St. George, 325 miles, which inspired that marathon that I set. And so we became acquaintances. I'd like to think we became friends, but not via social media. Remember, just phones and me following him on his website of where he was speaking next. That's what it was, because his calendar was on his website. And he came out to the ranch and saw the elk, and I went to his house and saw him and how he drove and how he worked his shower and how he mowed his lawn on a riding lawn. I mean, I saw everything. It was unreal. We spent a lot of time with each other. You talked about the NSA chapter, and they have a national organization called the National Speakers Organization. Their big event was in February, and it was in Honolulu, Hawaii, and Art was speaking at that, and he invited Shondell and I to go, and he paid for the tickets. So Shondell and I went. We returned home on February 18th, and we stayed for an extra couple of days, returned home on February 18th with Art, and on February 19th, that very next day at 6:15 in the morning, we got the phone call from Donnie, his executive assistant, that he had passed that night, unexpectedly, due to an allergic reaction to medication in his lungs, and it paralyzed his lungs. And we lost him at age 39. I just turned 50 yesterday. And I was devastated. I mean, it's been 20 years, and I don't know that I've ever lost something like that, because he was truly everything that a mentor could be and more. He was what an angel is and more than an angel to me. He gave me the opportunity to choose for myself, and I never wanted to be a speaker. Even when Art passed, I didn't want to. It never was even something that I had thought of or considered. I still was trying to figure out just how to, say thank you to Shondell, even though I didn't want to say thank you. I didn't want her help. And so I went out here on the asphalt road and I started pushing down there, and the thought came to my mind, which I think Art or God put it there. I wonder if we need to work on filling some shoes that are now missing in the world. And I turned my chair back and got back in the office and started doing some research and figuring it out. That's where it started. It started there, and we got after it. And so that was
That's
22 years ago.
what an experience. And if I can just say, knowing you personally, I've been able to coach with you just out there at the ranch a little bit ago with you and your sweet wife, who is an angel on earth. And I want to talk about her in just a second. I see how you have stepped into those shoes and you do that same thing. You mentor others so well and so frequently. And even in your speaking with audiences, being able to inspire them in their journeys and their struggles in that same way, that selfless way. And I don't want to be like annoying, but I've seen that. And I think what a blessing that Art is watching over you, I'm sure, and is seeing how you have continued that legacy. The baton has been passed and you're doing it in your way. As you started embarking on that speaking, I mean, you're not just learning, you're learning how to live and function in this new way. And now you're learning this new skill. What were some of the things that you had to learn that maybe you didn't know how to do as well as you would have liked to have known? Because speaking is its own skill set. So was there anything that you just needed help with, or that you had to learn for those that are listening that are wanting to be a speaker too? Were there some things that you're like, I had to learn how to do this and somebody helped me learn that?
I think confidence is one thing that's not learned, that you have to kind of earn yourself. And then everybody has a different style. I watched a bunch of different speakers and I could tell that some were rehearsed and Art was very unrehearsed and he just went with the flow. And that's kind of how I do it. I mean, I know I have an entourage or a library of stories, and I usually only have time to share 3 stories and time to a principal in a 60 to 90-minute keynote. And so I'll pull out the stories that I want to share and customize those presentations. But everybody says there's an art to speaking, and maybe there is. I guess mine is just being me and being authentic. I do think that there's some value, obviously, because you and I are members of the National Speakers Association, where you go and you learn from others the business side of it, and also some skill sets on what you can and can't say from a stage, or what's advantageous to say and what's not advantageous to say from a stage. And so those are things that you'll learn through the process. And it's been 22 years and you still learn. I think that it's a continuous learning that people do throughout their entire career. I still go to NSA events because I'm still loving to see other business models and what others are doing, whether it's coaching or when COVID hit, we all had to learn how to go virtual and do things like we're doing now. And it's opened up our minds. We have a studio now. Otherwise, that studio wouldn't be built if COVID didn't hit. And so it's just a continued evolvement of growth in the speaking industry. We do have a retreat that we do at the lodge where we have a three-day retreat on just speaking alone, a crash course, and trying to get all that information in just 3 days. But we teach everything from skill set to the business side and how we've grown, and then the different pillars. It gives people ideas on how they can do their own mastermind groups or do their own speaking from main stages, and then funnel people into different categories.
And for you to get to that place, I mean, this has been 22 years of speaking. You've done years where you've done 220 events. You've traveled over 300,000 miles, 5 continents, 4 countries. That is really doing a speaking business. And you have been able to do that. And like you said, oftentimes travel alone. Starting out though, was there a time when you were on stage and you thought, this is what I want to do? This is the kind of speaking that I want to do. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah,
really
happens every time I speak, because there's something rewarding and fulfilling about somebody coming up to you afterwards and saying, and dropping to their knees and getting on your level and saying, I appreciate what you shared with me today. I'm going through a challenge and I'm never going to forget this. There's something rewarding about that no amount of money can pay for. That happens frequently. And it's a rejuvenating thing, a reoccurring thing. It's just like putting a deposit into a bank. When somebody says that to me, it's a deposit. That's one thing that I love doing on the stage. I need to do the best I can to live what I teach, because people are depending on those stories as true foundational stories that they're relying on to, there's no hyperbole, right? And so if people share things that are untrue or an exaggeration of the truth, it lacks credibility. It's like writing a bad check. And if that were to ever get out, you would be discredited, right? And so it's your brand and your name. And so I really just try and be raw and real. As you know, I do share pictures with Shondell. and some of the great things and some of the things that she has taught me with this experience with my kids as well. And I tie those to principles and make them relative to every single person in the audience, even though they walk just fine and their hands work just fine. They can all relate to what I'm sharing because you don't have to be numb physically to go through some sort of adversity or challenge. So a lot of my topic revolves around changing and adapting to change, whether that's the internet, whether that's a new software program at work, whether that is a new job, a new career, a new relationship. And so we can tie this into many different aspects of life.
I love that, because I know when I'm talking with creatives, they're like, oh, but I don't have some tragic backstory, right? I don't have this horrible thing. And yet they've still gone through difficulties and challenges, and they can mine those to be able to connect and engage with that audience. What do you find when you're asked, you got clients, Coca-Cola, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Wells Fargo, all of these big, big people. And we're all just, at the end of the day, we're all people. And what do you find when you speak on these big stages that helps bring it down and give them that inspirational tool? Do you have tools that come to mind that you're like, you know what I find? I find that people respond to this. This has been so helpful for them. When they're all going through those different challenges, you go out to 2,000 people and you don't know exactly what they're going through. But have you found that there's some go-to inspirational tools that you have found have been really helpful for people?
Yeah, I mean, one of the tools that I love to use is just that beforehand connection, where this is not some celebrity that's coming out and non-accessible. So before you see me on the stage, you're going to see me out in the foyer talking to people. They don't know that I'm the speaker, but they recognize it when I come. Oh, that was a guy I met in the foyer, and he was asking me questions. Now I'm applying those in my talk right then and there. And so that tool has been very, very nice. And then being accessible afterwards, being out in the foyer, not just to sell stuff and sign books or a photo op, but really engaging with people. That's a tool, right? Before I ever go and speak on the stage, I'll talk to 10 people that are going to be in the audience, and I get those names from the meeting planner or the executive that's hired me to be there, so that we can call them from my office and I can have a personal 5-minute phone call to find out some of the things they love about their job and some things that they don't like about their job. And they're going to tell me that. And then I can somehow, I'm not there to fix it. I'm here to help them with their perception of it and how they visualize it, right? It's no different than my perception of this. And I try and relate that in. That's the whole idea, is relate this and then give them the tools that have helped me to take an experience of adversity, change, lack of hope, and give them that fortitude to go back to work the next day and say, you know what, I can get through this. I can adapt to this change. I can take on this new challenge or this new job requirement, or, you know what, I can be a better mother to my children. I can do this. I can get through this. I don't have to be an NFL football player to speak to NFL football players. If I can make myself relatable to them on their platform, they're going to leave there thinking about that. And that's a tool. That's not me coming in and sharing my story, because very few people are going to break their neck where I broke it and live. I need to make myself relatable to them. Yes. And so once you learn how to do that, there's nobody that won't hire you just because you're making everybody else better because you're around them. So whether they hire you or you do it for free as an honorarium free opportunity, there's always chances to be busy.
Love that. And I love that you are really aware of how to be relevant with them so that they can walk away with those tools. Have you had experiences that come to mind of when somebody has applied what you have taught and they've reached back out to you, and not just, hey, that was amazing, but they've reached out and said, I applied this and I had an amazing experience?
No, those are the most rewarding Christmas gifts year round that come in the mail or via email, or an evaluation that's turned into the office and it's sitting on my desk waiting for me to look at. Again, it's not something that we ask for or that we seek to get, but we had one just happened last week where a mother of 2 little children lost her husband to a heart attack, 34 years old. And she was remembering a talk that I gave at her bank and wanted some thoughts and advice. So we called up and talked to her, and I visited with her and expressed my empathy and let her know that I knew that she had a GoFundMe page set up and that people were taking care of that and we're happy to donate it. But I just wanted her to, money can't replace the broken heart. And so here are a couple of things that you might be able to use to honor Josh's legacy. Here's what you can do to help with Josh and with your 2 kids who are going to have a very little recollection. You don't ever want them to forget their dad and what their dad did for them. And you'll be honored as their mother for doing that. And you can do this. You can do hard things. So to be able to have that opportunity is now doing what art did for me when nobody else saw. very rewarding for art. I understand it, man. You know, the stage is great, the glamour, the glitz, the spotlights, the big screens, the cameras that are on the back that are getting you up close. That's all well and good. The behind the scenes that nobody sees, I think that's what God's looking at. I mean, he's not going to ask me how many people I spoke to and how many continents that I visit and how many countries. And was I a million-mile member of Delta Airlines? I don't think that I'm going to be asked those questions. I am going to be asked, did I make the phone call? Did I tell her thank you when she helped me shower? Or did I go silent because I was angry inside because she had to do it? And my answer is yes to both those. I mean, yes, I did go silent and she cried. I told her I was sorry. Tried to do better, worked for 3 months straight, and then I had another rough day. So again, I'm not professing to be perfect at this. I'm just saying I'm on this journey like everybody else is. And as long as we're clear about that, then people see me as being real. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a positive thing. I don't have all the answers, but I'm definitely willing to share what I have learned and what's working for China, what's not working. And people can relate to that.
Well, and speaking of Shondell, I know you have this beautiful oil painting at the ranch that you commissioned for the both of you. And I thought it was tender that as we were talking about that painting, I remarked on it because it was so gorgeous. And she is sitting slightly above you. And you said that's exactly where she needs to be, because she really is an angel on earth, all that she's done. And I know how dedicated you are to her and your kids. I remember you sharing in one of your talks one time about how you were speaking to truckers, and was it Alaska? I think it was somewhere up north, way up north, and how dedicated you have been with your kids of making sure you've been to their events and to their games and things like that, even with your travel experiences, and how you were sharing.
Yeah. I mean, I got a call from my son saying he was starting varsity as a junior or as a sophomore. And I don't miss my kids' games. The problem is that the kid was starting JV ball as a sophomore. And I kept my promise and my commitment. And then I flew out that night, speaking for Ice Road in Greenland. That's where it was at, up north.
A little bit farther than Alaska, but give or take. Okay.
Yeah, but it's far away, and it takes a while to get there. There's not a direct flight to Greenland. And so I got a phone call after being there for a few days from the sophomore, was that he was starting varsity in a tournament the next night. I was struggling with this because varsity is a big deal. I mean, coach is moving him up because of what he saw him do in his game, and he wants him to start, and he needs him on that court. And I want to witness this. I want to watch it all. I mean, I want to hear the AC/DC music. I want to hear his name announced. I want to be there to see his fear, his excitement, his anxiety. I mean, I want to hear the cheering. I want to soak this all in. But I'm in Greenland, and there's no way that I can make it back. But I can watch it from my barracks in the middle of Greenland, and I just need to get the boss to buy into my idea of having the computer on the internet. My wife will help me, and we'll get people there that'll help so I can watch it all as best I can, and then apologize to my son for not being able to make it and know that he'll understand. That was the idea. So I went that night because Greenland's 5 hours ahead of us, and so it's 5 o'clock Utah time and 10:30 Greenland time, and I go and I talk to the boss, and I told her what I just told you all, and she says, "You're not going to be able to make the meeting tomorrow night?" And I said, I can make it. I just can we postpone it an hour and a half? Or can I do it at the end of the shift in the morning at 3 or 4 in the morning, whenever these guys are working rotating shift? I'll do it whenever. Can we just change the time? I really want to watch this. I just got the news. And then she went right into it. She just said, you're not really living what you teach. I'm thinking to myself, we're not communicating here. I mean, I think I'm doing a really good job. I'm not a perfect person, but I think I'm trying to accommodate everybody, and my heart is back in Utah, and I'm trying to make this all work. And I said, you know what, let's keep things the way they are. My wife can record it, and I'll watch it later. It'll all work out. And I just said, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I just turned my chair around, a little bit hurt, but I didn't try and show any of that. And she stopped me. She said, hold on. And she went over to her desk and she grabbed a two-way radio. Late at night, dark, and she called the pilots of Ice Road Truckers. I mean, the pilots. I didn't even know they were there. I mean, I had no idea. And I would never ask. And she woke those pilots up, and we had wheels up by 11:15 that night on a private jet. And they flew me to Toronto, Canada all night. I caught a commercial Delta flight in Toronto through Detroit into Salt Lake City, My plane landed in Salt Lake 45 minutes before tip-off. I had a helicopter waiting for me, got on the bird, landed that sucker at Bear River High School for Ace's game. 11 minutes, my chair wheeled into the gym. It couldn't have happened. There's no way. Man, it was unreal how it all happened. My helicopter landed, and I wheeled my chair into the gym with 11 minutes on the clock before tip-off. So I heard AC/DC thunderstruck. I witnessed it. The gym was packed. It's a tournament. It was packed. Bands playing, cheerleaders were there. My son's warming up. And as soon as he sees me enter the gym, he does a dunk because he's got this adrenaline rush. And he does a dunk during warm-ups. And then he runs over to my side, and somebody's catching this on film. And he drops to it and he hugs me because he had no idea. And my wife runs down because she didn't know I was coming. I didn't tell her. I didn't want her to know. I didn't want her to know what I spent on the helicopters. I'm not telling her that I'm coming. And so I get in there, and it was just, it was incredible. It was nothing shy of a miracle in every way, shape, form, and facet. And I was there for that game. We went to dinner that night at Texas Roadhouse. I remember that after the game to celebrate his first start. And then I flew back that night. I went back to Greenland to finish my work. He played varsity the rest of the year, and I was there for every game. So we just had to change the schedule. But that's how that worked.
What I took away from that story was the need and the rightness of being able to ask for what you want, to keep what matters most. And I love that you had even just asked, is there a way that we can do this? And how wonderfully accommodating people were. And I'm sure you found this as well, that when you tell people what you really need for those core reasons, people will do anything and everything they can to make that work. So we don't need to be afraid as creatives to say, is it possible for me to do it this way so I can be with my family, or so I can keep those beliefs, or so that we can still maintain this kind of a balance. So I love that experience to cement that for everyone listening, that even being a speaker or whatever, a writer, an artist, whatever, you can still keep what matters most first. And it's asking, and it's being willing to do. I know our time is so short, and I wish we could just sit and exchange stories because you've got so many. But for those that are on the creative path, and either they're starting or they're in the middle and they're feeling a dip, and they're just feeling like, do I even matter? Does anybody even know that I'm trying or sharing or expressing or working so hard at trying to lead people to Christ or to share this message? Do you have a tip or a tool or a piece of advice that has kept you going over the years, that has helped you to be able to stay in the ring?
Don't give in to your values. Don't compromise your values. Connie mentioned God. God is a non-negotiable. Me talking to him is a non-negotiable. Me asking him for his help when I'm having a hard day is a non-negotiable. In fact, I know how I feel when my kids call me up and say, Dad, can you help me? With sincerity. When my kids call me up and say, Dad, can you help me? I love that.
Yes.
I like that. He's got to feel the same way.
Yes.
And if my kids don't call me, I feel like I'm not important to them.
Yes.
God's got to feel the same way. God is a non-negotiable. Now, I'm not here to be preachy to all of you. I guess maybe I am. I don't know. I'm just saying, don't compromise your values, whatever that is for you. The value of having gratitude. Wake up every morning trying to find something to be grateful for. Every morning. That's the way that a day should start. Not with a cup of coffee, not by going to the gym, not by turning on the news. The day should start out with a moment of gratitude. And that's a value.
Love that. And those are all so important. At the end of the day, I know you've seen it too, that creatives, whether you're a speaker, writer, musician, artist, whatever, that we can get so focused on moving forward that thing and what's the next step and what's the next step, that we can forget these simple core values that really make it worthwhile doing the thing that we are moving forward. So I love that reminder. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared. It has been just a joy. I wish we had more time to connect, but I know people are going to want to connect and find out more about what you do and the ranch and how they can access that and how they can access you. So what's the best way for them to reach you?
If you just Google Chad Hymas, CHADHYMAS, CHADHYMAS, the social media stuff will pop up. The ranch is called Royal Creek Ranches. ES at the end, royalcreekranches.com, and you'll see stuff there as well.
Mhm.
So that's a great way to reach out to us.
So good. And okay, if we can fit it in, I would love to just ask one more question because I know that we're out of time, but we'll see
right.
with the edits if we can put it in. So just one last question on this. That ranch is absolutely gorgeous. And I was able to be there for that NSA watch party and had a life-shifting experience there. It was so beautiful, so wonderful. And then a few years later, fire, random. There is a fire and it burns to the ground. Take us to now. You've rebuilt it and it's gorgeous and it's wonderful, but seeing that ranch burn, and it's on hallowed ground. You have even a legal sort of monument standing out there of this is a special place. So
It is.
take us to
It
that
is.
moment of that fire. And then again, that change, that resurgence, that difficult thing. And how do I move forward from this?
Again, another loss, right? Going back to that day when it burned, and I was in there with 90 people, and they kept saying there was a fire in the chimney. I said, just put it out. This building cannot burn down. It's impossible. I mean, this is a massive structure. It's got all these nice, elaborate furniture pieces. This building is not going to the ground. And 6 hours later, there was nothing left. Nothing. I mean, you look at the photographs and the aerial footage and the drone footage. I mean, it was ash. And Sean Dell and I had to make a decision. And we decided to build it back bigger and better. And so we almost tripled its size and added the caterer's kitchen, a few more boardrooms, sleeping quarters, bus parking, valet parking, lights up like a temple. There's water features outside now with the landscaping done. It's really kind of cool the way that it's been built back. And so now it's booking fast. It's been kind of cool. And that's what it's there for, is for people to come together and grow and scale their own dreams and learn that curriculum. And I will teach at some of those events, and it'll be taught by other people as well. So that's the purpose of the ranch. We also use it for my passion is the outdoors. So we have several hundred elk up there that are on the property, fishing ponds, ATV excursions, hiking. There's a lot of outdoor stuff that happen, mountain biking. So a lot of outdoor excursions that happen at the ranch.
So wonderful. And again, I just see this pattern in your life, Chad. Just these hard things come, and they come to all of us, right, in different ways. But these hard things come, and being able to take a step and say, okay, this has happened. What are we going to do now? And taking those next hard steps of moving forward and say, I'm going to do something with this, and kind of bookending from the very beginning. I love that in that moment, in that hospital room, that Art came in. He showed you by his example, there was so much more ahead, and that you were going to be okay. And it was going to all work out. Mm. And because that's happened, you keep replicating that pattern of it's all going to be okay. And it's all going to work out. And in fact, we're going to make it even better. And I look at your beautiful speaking career of spanning 22 years and all of this global travel, and yet coming down to the one and helping and inspiring. You've been able to do that over and over and over, replicate that pattern of we're going to do it even better, and we're going to make it even better for everyone involved. So thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Thanks, Connie. Thanks a lot. It's been an honor.
Thank you. I can't wait to the next time we connect. And for
sure.
all those listening, I hope that you have enjoyed this today. And remember, we have so many other interviews that other creatives have been able to share their highs and lows and in between of moving forward on their journey of being called to create.